What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast. I'm looking forward to this one because we're discussing another win, 3 wins in a row for Spurs in the Premier League. That does sound a lot better than what we've been used to for large parts of this season. So in today's podcast, we'll be reviewing our Europa League draw, because we now know who we've got in the round of 16, and also our route to the final. We're talking about that Ipswich win, as well as looking ahead to Manchester City, because there's always lots of fixtures, lots of games, always a lot happening. To join me, though, to dissect this win is, I've got a lovely panel tonight, so let's go through. Firstly, Kallum, how you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's 3 times in a week, and we're actually positive. So yeah, go for it, mate. I'm up for it tonight for about 10 minutes.
I was going to say, that's what we like. You're going to turn negative as usual. We'll have to see. Maybe when we talk about Man City, but for now, hopefully it'll be all right. So thank you for joining us. As you said, third time in 7 days. That's a lot of content going on. So thank you very much, Kallum. Justin, welcome back. I mean, you mentioned, didn't you, in the studio beforehand, I only tend to get you on when we've lost. So does it feel good coming on after a win?
This is going to be a bit of a struggle because obviously the game was a positive one. Everything went well. So I don't really know how I'm going to cope with this. I might need you just to bear with me through this, but I'm sure Kallum will support me where needed.
I'm sure he will. You two get on like a house on fire.
I've got free license to be a twat. It's brilliant.
Oh dear, I think we know where this one's going tonight. Thank you, Justin. Rosa, welcome. Your debut on the Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast, obviously part of the hometown glory crew. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely buzzing. Thank you so much for having me. I feel giddy. 3 wins. When was the last time we could say that? I know it's December 2023. 2024 was not a good year.
No, it wasn't at all. I mean, that's an awfully long time ago, isn't it? What was it? The other day I saw over 100 days, so we'd won, a home game, absolutely bonkers, and we'd done that win against home against Man United. So yeah, crazy stuff. Just nice, as you say, to get back to winning ways, because it's just not just a fluke now. 3 wins in a row. It sounds right. Thank you for coming on, Billy. Welcome back. Great to have you on as always. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very, very good. It's great to be on with the crew, and good to see Rosa as well. So yeah, really buzzing. I know me and Rosa are both eternal optimists, so I think it'll be a nice yin and yang today. But yeah, really good.
Don't say anything, Kallum. We've got a good balance then on tonight on the panel. So
Why me? Why me?
I'm just saying, no, I know what you're like. I can see you
mean, you're
in
being
the background.
You're having a go at me.
No comment. Let's crack straight into it, though. Please do check out our sponsor, The Kitman. And if you're new to the podcast, let's say you're listening on YouTube, please do smash that subscribe button. If you're listening after, a lot of you do on a podcast platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Thank you very much. Let's kick it off with the Europa League draw. For people who didn't see who we got, we were drawn with AZ Alkmaar in the round of 16. Kallum, what are your thoughts on this draw?
I think it's a cracking draw, to be fair. I was kind of bricking it when it was either Alkmaar or Sociedad. And obviously Sociedad, they're a higher quality team. Let's put it this way. So the fact that Man United have got them and the way that Man United are playing, I'm hoping that they do them dirty big time and kick United out, because they're probably one of our biggest rivals to it. It'd be good to see Troy Parrott back as well. Obviously, we did play Alkmaar in the sort of, can you call it the group stages now, or the sort of weird fantasy football setup that they've got that leads into it?
Group stage.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought Parrott is a good player, so I mean, it'll be good for him to come home and hopefully doesn't come back to bite us on the backside. But if you said to me to go a route to the final like that, if we could get Alkmaar and then potentially Ajax afterwards, I think that'd be 2 cracking games of football for it. So I'm actually really happy with that draw as it stands.
Okay, thank you very much. Rosa, how do you feel about that draw? Are you with Kallum in terms of you're happy with it and the way it went for us?
Yeah, it's the Moussa Dembele derby. Anyone who knows me knows that Moussa Dembele is my favourite Tottenham player of all time, not named Harry Kane. So when we played them, what was it? 1-0? Was it the Richarlison penalty? It wasn't like the best game ever, but I feel pretty good about this one, especially I've just discovered where Alkmaar actually is, which I didn't know before. So I'm feeling all right. Yeah. I think with Tottenham, sometimes I do feel like I would rather we had a tougher game, just because we're not great with games we're supposed to win. But this time round, I trust in Ange, so I'm feeling good about it.
That's what we like. Thank you very much. Billy, we will face Ajax or Eintracht Frankfurt in the quarter-final if we beat AZ Alkmaar, and that first leg will be at home. So talk to us about your thoughts on getting AZ Alkmaar in that round of 16, but also that next stage after that, the quarter-final.
I think it's generally favourable. I think the other side of the draw is tougher because you got the Sociedad in there, you got Fenerbahce in there, you have got the host Bilbao in there as well. I think Bilbao are going to be a really tough nut to crack just because I think they're fourth in the league at the moment, and also obviously the finals in their ground as well. So that could be a really difficult one. So we avoided all that until at least the final. But then you got Frankfurt potentially up next. I think Ajax just scraped through on an extra time, didn't they? But I think Frankfurt look a pretty decent side, actually. I think they're third in Bundesliga at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, Alkmaar's probably about as good as we could have hoped for, I think, because we've already beaten them with a pretty weakened team. With a full team, it shouldn't be much of a problem. But I think that Frankfurt one is going to be the test. And then, potentially a semi-final with Lazio as well. So, I don't look at this really as like, if you want to win a trophy of the caliber Europa League, you simply have to be able to beat Frankfurt and Lazio and Alkmaar, and that's just the way it is. Like, you can't really expect, much of an easier run to a final than that. And I'm not saying those teams are bad by any means, but, to get to a European final, you're going to have to beat teams that caliber easily. And it's what we're going to have to live with, yeah. So I'm not frightened by it, but I can see some potential banana skins. But I think if we play the way we can play, it sounds like that shouldn't be a problem for us. They certainly shouldn't be a problem for us if we have aspirations to win the whole tournament.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. Thank you very much, Billy. Justin, what are your thoughts? Do you echo what everyone said so far in terms of the favourable?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't see there being. I'd be stunned if there's an issue with AZ Alkmaar. I think obviously we beat them, at a sort of a not in our best form, and hopefully we're now starting to get back to some of that. I do agree with Billy in terms of what he's saying. I don't think it'll be Ajax. I think it'll be Frankfurt because, okay, they've lost Mamouche to City, but they've got Ekitike. They've got some really, really good players within there. So, and they're doing well in the Bundesliga as well. So, although they just got turned over by Munich. So, look, this is Spurs. The amount of times we've been in competitions like this where we should have been the favourite, and then we've systematically bottled it in some sort of shape or form. So, I just hope that there isn't this expectation that it's a given right that we're going to win it, because I've had a lot of panelists turn around and say we're one of the strongest teams, but I agree in terms of Bilbao. You've obviously got Roma, Sociedad, people like that. Fenerbahce, obviously, could Mourinho come back to haunt us? That would be ironic, really, more than anything else. So I think, the sooner we can get to the magical 40 points, which is tragic enough to even be able to say, then I think it should just be all in on the Europa League. We know this season isn't going to be anything else.
It should be already, shouldn't it, really? The full focus on Europa League, I think. It should be already.
You'd like to think so. I just think, though, I mean, the one advantage we have got is obviously after the City game, we've got about a week until the Alkmaar game. So you don't really need to worry too much about resting players for it. So that's a benefit in terms of there. So I think hopefully that should give us a good shot. But we've seen this before with Spurs when we've played games, bottled them. I can remember Sevilla. I can remember I was at penalty shootout with Malbronk. Reviews who even want to take a penalty. There's been loads of occasions where we should have got further into the competition and we haven't. So hopefully now they actually do take it seriously, and we actually bring a trophy home, because I think it's the least we deserve after another wretched season.
No, 100%. So that's in terms of AZ Alkmaar, but quickly to touch on as well the draw in general. Kallum, I think we have touched on it, but you reckon that is a favourable route to the final, should I say, in terms of how it could have gone? You talked about Man United there, Real Sociedad. Looks like they've got it a lot tougher. So I think in reality, I don't know about you, but I agree with the guys that it's not only a favourable draw at this stage, but also a favourable run to the final. And like Billy says, you just got to win whatever's in front of you, haven't you?
Yeah, no, Billy's completely correct on it. You've got to win every game that comes your way. But I see Alkmaar as an opportunity, because just say we play Alkmaar. What is it? I think 2 weeks time.
Yeah.
If we had a tougher draw now, if we had Sociedad, Lazio, Roma, all of them, we'd still be without a lot of first-team players. By playing Alkmaar, no discredit to them, but they are one of the weaker teams in this round if you look at it on standing within world football. So if we can get a couple more players back, obviously in a couple of weeks' time, we could have Richie, we could have Dom back, we could have Mickey, we could have Christian back as well, and unfortunately Timo Werner as well. Though I don't know whether he's still in the Europa League squad or whether he has been forcibly removed, which would be a positive on all accounts. But if we can use these games to sort of build up the momentum and then get a fully fit squad, as long as we avoid injuries, then we should have a better squad all round to go against the bigger teams in the quarters, the semis, if obviously we don't do a Spurs and slip up against Alkmaar. But we've got 2 games to win it, and if we can get our players back and play decent in the home leg, and even if we have to just draw away at Alkmaar, then so be it. We just get it over and done with and move on to the next one, to be honest, mate.
100%. It's just about getting through, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you very much, Kallum. Rosa, should we be prioritising the Europa League over the league?
I don't think it's about prioritising. I think there's nothing else we can do at this stage. Kallum, I just wanted to set your mind at rest. I'm pretty sure Timo Werner has been dropped from the Europa League squad.
I've just double checked that. 100% he's been dropped. It was
As
him.
someone who defended him for ages.
Yeah, it was
even
basically
I
him,
had to
Fraser
admit.
Forster, and Dragusin who were dropped.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you won't have to see him in a game of any.
Hopefully never
serious...
again in a Spurs shirt. Hopefully never again. It'll be wonderful.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think on our pods, we've been doing like scary relegation maths. And I think this week we've finally been able to say we don't have to worry about it anymore. You never know, obviously. But I think we're okay. So I think the league, maybe we could just try to have a bit of fun in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, I'd like to see Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall in midfield together at some point. That'd be good. And really like shape the team for the Europa League, like sort of perfect it in a way. Having said that, it would also be really nice to take the City game properly seriously and beat them. So we can just be like, see, we did throw it last year. And I would love to have beaten another Manchester team 3 times in one season, even in a terrible season like this. But yeah, I don't think we really have a choice. Like, we have to go for Europa. There's literally nothing else going on.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Billy, do you feel the same? You've got to go to Europa League. It's not really a choice now. It's just a given to prioritise it because you have a chance of winning it. Would you say as well?
Yeah, I would say that definitely. I just don't think Andrew will agree. Like, he doesn't really seem to. I don't think he's ever going to play on the weekend side in a league game. To be honest, he just doesn't seem to have it within him. I just think
he probably thinks we could still do something in the league as well.
He will definitely be looking at the gap between this and 5th, without a doubt. He always talks about stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think we should prioritise the Europa League. I just don't think. I think Andy's just going to go full pound for both because that's kind of his nature and his philosophy about things. But I do hope if there's a tough decision to make, like Kulusevski or Son or Solanke or something like that, who players that badly need a rest, he rests them in the Premier League and not the Europa League because I just want to win it, man.
100%. Justin, do you feel the same? And can we win the competition?
Oh, absolutely, we can win it. We've got some really good quality in there, and obviously, as Kallum's now relieved, we haven't got Werner, so that's a bonus. But again, it's just Spurs. It's actually now, and you almost look at it as in, I do think for once we should just go all out for it, because when you look at when Tottenham have gone for the Europa League before or been in that competition, it's almost, and I find it so ironic because they did it with the Conference League where it was beneath us. How on earth can a competition that we could win a trophy for be beneath us? That I just can't get my head round, considering the fact that we still talk about the fact that we're the Audi Cup winners. We won the Tiger Cup and things like that in just against absolutely ridiculous teams. So, to me, I do feel we should go all out for it. But I do think, as well as what Billy said, he will take the league seriously, because I reckon they'll have, As Rose said about a negative calculation of points, I reckon the club will have done a positive calculation of points and would have sat there and gone, oh, hello, maybe we're not too far away from the top as we think we are. So there'll be that notion in there as well. But I do feel that when games are coming up and he's looking at the squad and he's thinking, oh, I've got Alkmaar coming up, do I want to risk it and things like that? I think it should be give them extra break and things like that, because there shouldn't be any excuse. You look at the league we're in, you look at the players that we've got, and you look at the teams around us. We are more worried about them because of them being a potential banana skin rather than the better than us. So we should win it. But it's just which Tottenham turns up, whether it's Tottenham. Oh, sorry, we're not allowed to call them Tottenham. It's Tottenham Hotspur turns up, or if Spursy turns up. I think we can use that term. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Indeed. Thank you very much to all of you for that. Moving on though to Ipswich and reviewing the game. For people who didn't see it, our lineup was Vicario, Spence, Gray, Danso and Doggy. That was a back line with the Doggy coming back into the side. Benson, Bergevall and Kulusevski in midfield, and then Johnson, Son and Tell up top. Kallum, when that lineup was released, any surprise in there for you? It was for me to see, maybe Porro not being in there. I had a suspicion, as we all probably did, that Spence would be the one to make way, but he's been so good recently.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Porro out, to be fair. I didn't think Udogie was ready to start, to be fair. He'd only been in training about a week. I was surprised not to see Ben Davies as well, to be honest. I thought we'd finally gotten out of having Archie at the back and having...
Apparently got
Davies...
a knock.
Yeah, so since it came out, obviously that's what they've said and all that. But no, I was quite surprised when there was no sort of lead up to it saying about it. But no, I mean,
definitely.
Apart from that, I was quite happy with it. I was maybe a little bit shocked to see Son and still playing as well, because like Billy said, he needs a rest desperately. And obviously Kulusevski came in place of Maddison as well. So there was a few surprises, I thought, where people could get some game time in their legs, to say the least. It was just seeing Archie at centre back, which really annoyed me again, because I feel sorry for the kid. He's played everywhere in defence apart from his own position.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for him too. I mean, Davis being out is a real shame, because like you, I looked at that and thought, finally, the opportunity to move Gray into midfield, and no, Davis has got a knock, which, as you said, you're right. We didn't know at the time. We didn't know till after. It was really strange. And they do like that little mini interview, don't they, with Ange, with like Sky and that. Obviously, this game was on TV, but they do that before the game. And he didn't ask him about Davis, which is interesting. So we never really knew until after there was a knock. But Rosa, on that team, I want to ask you in particular about, because Kallum did mention it as well, James Maddison not being in that team after having such a big impact against United. Did that take you by surprise? Obviously, Ange's got a few more options now in that midfield with players coming back.
A little bit, but once I saw him on the bench, I just thought, well, I imagine he's being rested for City, because he was really instrumental in the 4-0 at the Etihad. And when we've won brilliantly this season, he has been at the heart of everything good we do. Like, I know he's a bit divisive and people are, quite like, why we love him, but can't he just do it all the time? But when he does turn it on, he is completely magical, and he's a player that you really want to be at his best against a team like City. So I wasn't bothered that he wasn't starting. I was very glad to see him come on, because again, he produced a moment of sort of magic, really, to help set up Spence. But more of that on Wednesday, I hope.
Let's hope so. Thank you. Billy, there's a comment here in the YouTube chat from Samuel, who says, I don't think he fancies Gray in midfield for some reason. Do you feel that way in terms of Ange, the way he looks at it, or do you just think what he's been given, he hasn't got many other options?
Maybe, but I would hope to think that would change pretty significantly quickly, because I don't think he's a centre back. Like, I don't think his future's going to be there. I think he's done an incredible job there, without a doubt. But I definitely see him more as a midfielder, and I hope as the season goes, as the next season comes along, pre-season and stuff, he'll certainly start to get some more midfield. I think it's a difficult situation because, like, I thought Bergvall was absolutely amazing, probably his best game for us. And it's probably either going to be him or Bergvall that play alongside two of the more experienced players. So, and Bergvall seems to be the one that's playing really well at the moment. So I don't think, I'm not sure that Issy doesn't fancy him. I just don't think there's going to be many opportunities for him this season. Until I think maybe pre-season we might shift a couple of players and give him a bit more time on an pre-season again, just to get him up to speed a bit with midfield. But I think he's done an excellent job at centre back for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. And last but not least, Justin. Were you surprised to see Son in that lineup again? Kallum mentioned earlier. Don't talk about what he necessarily done in the game. Were you surprised at the time he was in the team sheet?
No, I wasn't actually. I think because we had the rest leading up to it. I think if it had been, if we'd have had, let's say, a Europa or like a Europa League game leading up to it, then you may have said otherwise. But I think now that we've all seen what Son can do when he is at his best, and I don't think anyone can dispute that. But I think we're reaching a point now where it really is one game a week, almost maximum. He's at that point where he can't do 2 or 3 games in a week. I just don't think it's in him anymore. But seeing him start there, no, I didn't have a problem with regards to it. I initially was the one that I think that surprised me a little bit was more, Kulusevski over Maddison. But I think to be fair, a bit like what Rosa said, we saw it when he came on, how good he can be, whether he'll start and whether he'll give Kulusevski a rest. That will be an interesting one to see. I do think with the Gray question that was asked earlier, I do think what we're going to see is sort of like a battle for 2 spots between Gray, Bergvall and Bentancur. And then maybe they'll bring somebody in like Angel Gomez from Lille or someone like that.
Do you still think Anshis Gray is a midfielder?
I do. I generally do. Because when you look at what they're being linked with and what they're looking at, I don't think, although it came as a surprise, I'd be stunned if, particularly with his contract situation, if they weren't going to go back in for Mark Guehi. Obviously, the wages will be an intriguing one because we know Spurs don't pay the big wages, and obviously Chelsea are looking to get him back. So I would not be surprised if Tottenham revisited that one. People might say that's a replacement for Romero, but again, we would ask big money for him. So I think that we're going to get to a point where he will go back into midfield, but maybe as that number 6 role. Let's not forget we've never really replaced Moussa Dembele, and I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes that, because to have learnt to be a midfielder and play the 4,000 positions that we've played him in, and not done a terrible job in any of them, it shows that he's got that adaptability. So I think it will be a case of he'll become the number 6, but he might then move to an 8, or if needed, might go on the wing or something like that, dependent on how injuries or things like that progress. So I would see him as a central midfielder going forward. But I think more as a number 6, and maybe having either Bentancur and Bergvall with either Kulusevski or Maddison. So sort of like competition for those positions, really.
Okay, sounds good with me. Thank you very much, Justin. Let's see how Ange approaches it as players start to return. Rosa, I want to come to you in this one because the first 5-10 minutes, I thought it started really well, didn't they? Had home crowd behind them. It just is like, oh, here we go again. And I just thought it was a really bright start from the home side.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think I was listening to another podcast with an Ipswich fan, and they were saying, we're just going to go for it. And obviously, in the event, they came undone. But actually, had they scored one of those early, what it felt like about 5 chances in the first couple of minutes, if they'd scored one of those early goals, maybe it would have been different. I still think based on how the rest of the game went, we would have come back into it and probably won. But it's just a shame, isn't it? Because I feel like with Ipswich, I like the way they play. They're really going for it, and they're not really getting the rewards, and they'll probably lose Delap in the summer, and it's just that sort of classic promoted, then relegated team situation. But they absolutely did put us under the cosh a bit in the first few minutes. I'm glad that we did not concede and we were able just to come back into it. And I mean, we got a bit lucky maybe with the offside goal as well. Later on, they had their chances, but we just had more quality in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Rose. As you said, I don't think it would have had a massive impact. We just don't know. It's important not to concede in those early moments. We didn't. But Billy, would you say that we were lucky not to be behind?
Yeah, definitely the way that it started and a few other times in the match. They started pretty strong. They hit the post, didn't they, early on as well from that set piece.
Yeah.
And I think Liam Delap is a real handful against anyone at the moment. Definitely a player that I would love to have at Tottenham. I think he's just an absolute, he's like an old school striker, just an absolute handful for defenders, up in their face, very physical. And, even though Ipswich are obviously in the relegation zone, I don't think any defender would really relish playing against him. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Harry Kane when he first came through. Got that sort of physical mentality, that physical who wants to take defenders on and rough them up a little bit, and really good finisher as well. So yeah, I think we were lucky to an extent, but yeah, I think that's because a lot of it is to do with the fact that Liam Delap is a really good player.
Yeah, he is. As you say, a player I'd like to see in Spurs colours for sure. Don't know if it'll happen, obviously relying on them going down. But yeah, it'd be nice. I see him as a backup for, just to have competition with Solanke. Let him, backup being maybe disrespectful to him the way he's playing right now. And maybe if we let Richarlison go, I don't know. But the club will say, look, we've got Mateus Tell now. But moving on to the goals and the action itself, Kallum. 18th minute, the first goal of the game came. It came to us through Brennan Johnson. I mean, Son does really well, doesn't he? We've mentioned all the bad stuff he's done recently, how he maybe shouldn't be in the team, shouldn't be this, should do that. But he deserves credit here, doesn't he?
Yeah, Son actually beat his man for once and didn't get knocked out of play. So I was quite happy with it, to be honest. And it was that sort of Ange-esque goal, wasn't it? The cut in, beat your man and square it across goal for Brennan Johnson. So it's traditional sideways goal. And yeah, I was happy to see Son do that because I think he'd doing the world of good. You can definitely see there's a confidence lack in there, especially with his fitness issues as well. So when he did get the assist, you could even see his face was a lot happier in there. And it was good to see Brennan back on the score sheet as well, to be honest, because these are the games that you kind of know he'll rack up a goal tally when there is space for him to exploit. And based on what the other guys have said about us being under the cosh for the first 10 to 15 minutes, it was a goal completely against the run of play. But it's what our football does. Even we can soak up that pressure, and if we can then hit them and take advantage of it, it's positive. It's what we want. And these are the games where we need to get an early goal and keep going. So no, I was really happy when I heard it on the radio, mate.
100%. Thank you very much, Kallum. Justin, Johnson was mentioned there. I mean, is it a case of right place, right time?
Yeah, I hear this a lot about people saying, he doesn't do enough and this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
and I do
tapping
those things
merchant. A lot of people
yeah,
say.
but I mean, he scores the goals. Who cares? I genuinely
Exactly.
can't get my head around that one because
No, nor can I.
he's not. He almost. I think people seem to forget a little bit about, maybe what Postecoglou's asking of him because. In some cases he likes it where they go down to the byline, they whip that ball in quick for somebody to try and get onto it, or that they join in the middle. And I think Johnson maybe takes more of that sort of approach, that he gets himself in that position. So I think defenders don't expect him to do that. They sort of expect him to stay out into the right, try and beat your man and whip the ball in. Whereas, if he's not in that position, because somebody says, well, who else would be there? Well, the question is, well, who else would be there? Because we all know how Kulusevski plays. Well, he wouldn't do that. Solanke would potentially be there, but otherwise, as you saw with Tell, the defenders were drawn to him, so they completely took their eye off the ball with Johnson. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if he wasn't scoring the goals, then yeah, there's an issue with his play. But the fact of it being is he's getting himself into those positions for the tap in. So I don't think we've really got, apart from if, the striker got in that position, you don't really see the likes of any other players that we've got who are those tapping merchants. So if that's all he's going to score, then fine by me, because last time I checked, goals win you games. Simple as that, really.
Exactly. I'm so glad you mentioned it. And I was having this debate with this guy, and in the end, I just gave up, to be honest with you, on X. I mean, that's the way it often goes. I'm sure everyone can relate. But he was just talking about Brennan Johnson. He's like, yeah, but he goes missing in the game. But I was like, surely, he's getting the goals and assists. That's all we want. But he's like, yeah, but he's not scoring spectacular goals. And it actually linked into Son as well. But I was like, okay, Son, that's a whole different argument. But it doesn't matter how, for me, anyway, I mean, I could be completely wrong here. Maybe
You
it's
could turn
me,
around
but
how
it
many
doesn't matter
times,
how you
'cause
score, does it?
we sit there and we lauded Harry Kane and saying how wonderful he was, but we all then sit there in times and critical of he'd go missing games. People do go missing games;
Yeah,
it does happen. But
absolutely.
ultimately, you look at his goals so far: 9 goals, 2 assists. I think he's almost a top goal scorer for us. And if he's doing the goals part, surely he's doing
Yeah,
his
but
job, regardless
this
of the
guy in
tapping.
particular was like, yeah, but he's not scoring goals outside the box. What's that? We scoring them in the
Well,
box. He's like,
we've got
yeah, but
Kulusevski for that. We've
they're
got
not
Son for
good.
that. Yeah, but then
Yeah.
the problem is,
Spurs
and
don't
this is
score
where I
goals
think,
outside the box anyway, do they? So it
well,
don't really
to be
matter.
fair, I think that's all Kulusevski does. He cuts on his left and then he scores, doesn't he? That's about it. I don't see people criticising that.
Wow.
I do
so what,
find Brennan
David,
maddening, I have to say. I do. I know exactly what you mean. It's ridiculous. He does,
Yeah.
he obviously scores a lot of goals. I think what would you say? Do you not feel like there's something about the way he plays? When we start an attack, and because our midfield is not the strongest, without Solanke, like the balls so often just come straight back at us. And I do think Johnson is a part of that problem, I have to say. And I have also seen him just jogging around when I think he should be running either forwards or backwards. I think his ceiling is very high, but I do find him very frustrating, I have to say. I can't
I think
criticize his goal
he is
output,
one of those
but
players that you are. It's either all or nothing. He's either going to go quiet or he is going to go and score you 2 goals just out of
yeah,
nowhere.
maybe.
So
he
from
reminds me of
that
Lucas Moura. He
yeah,
reminds me of Lucas Moura a lot. He runs a lot, does a lot of running, or he just drops off and he runs into a lot of blind alleys. That's the
yeah.
problem. And David Clark's made a valid point saying he can't cross a ball to save his life either.
No, he can't. But he's one of those ones I think we saw it a little bit with other players where they just would drift. So they wouldn't do their actual job. And I do wonder sometimes whether Ange misses a trick and sort of, having Kulusevski and Johnson flick between positions, because sometimes I think maybe Johnson would maybe suit a more of a number 10 role, and you could potentially have Kulusevski going out on that right and saying to Johnson, right, play him through the middle and then drift into those positions, and then maybe he'd be a bit more effective.
I wonder if you could play Johnson on the left, to be fair.
Mm.
I think he could. He seems to like to cut in and keep or go to the byline, so maybe that could be an option.
I think, to be fair, though, on the left, I'd rather we went someone big. I know they've talked about that. Gittins from Dortmund or other sort of Sane, I think is another one they're looking at from what I understand. I almost feel sometimes with Spurs, we get to this point where we're almost like, well, he might be all right here. They might be all right there. And you almost think, well, no, why don't we just actually go and buy the players that are dedicated for that role? So I get what you're saying, but I think I'd rather we actually went big, which, I mean, it's Spurs. I doubt it. We'll probably get an Odegaard 2.0, but, who knows?
Listen, I like Odegaard, what I've seen of him. He can take a man on, which I think is what Brennan is also missing. But yeah.
I think he's got that. I think the thing for me that always I find frustrating with Spurs is the amount of times since, apart from Solanke, where they've always signed someone at the base of potential. And I think it would be nice if they actually brought somebody who is of a star quality in, because if you could bring somebody in, let's say they brought in Gittins or they brought in Nico Williams, let's say from Bilbao, that's somebody who literally you light up and go, wow, you are now a mainstream club. You're not a potential feeder club. Anybody who looks at Odegaard, you wouldn't be surprised if you thought, well, if he does really, really well, there's a chance he might go to Real Madrid. You're not looking at him as staying here to win something. And I think that is why it would be nice eventually, if the club seriously do go ahead with what they're talking about, which is Gittins and getting Gehi. I think those are statement signings, and that's the one thing Tottenham really do lack.
100%. David Clark in the YouTube chat, it's fair to say he doesn't like Kulusevski. It's interesting to read his comments every week, but he likes to highlight Maddison doing well. He's not happy. He says Spurs fans hero Kulu out and Maddison. I mean, he loves Maddison over Kulu. Be interested to hear a little bit more about why, David Clark. Billy, in terms of this first Spurs goal, though, I mean, it was so important, wasn't it, to get that first goal? We knew the way that they would start. We saw that. The crowd getting behind them. We resisted. We didn't let them score. I just felt that goal come at such an important time and just changed the whole complexion of the game.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what you need to do in these tough away atmospheres. Get an early goal, something which haven't done enough probably over the last years, and then we've crumbled under the atmosphere. But if you get an early goal, it really sort of calms the atmosphere in the stadium, and also means the other team have to come out a bit, which again favours us generally. So yeah, really, really important, and I think that's the kind of Son we've been missing for a while. When he's got the ball at his feet, taking on a player, amazing cross into the box. And it was sort of reminded me a bit of the old Son a few seasons ago. We used to do that, as easy as breathing. When he used to take on players like that. So yeah, it was really good to see. And I was like you guys, you were talking about a minute ago. I was a bit critical of Son being in the starting 11 because I thought he had a really poor game the other day. I think he's been a bit of a poor run of form, and I didn't think he should be starting. I think he maybe needed to spell out of the team to rest, but 2 assists soon shut me up about that.
Yeah, I was the same as you. I was like, what's he doing in the team again? But that's why we're not managers and Angiers, I suppose, at the end of the day. But Billy, I'll stick with you because our second goal came in the 26th minute once again from Brennan Johnson. I mean, talking about Song, I think we've got to go back to him again. He does really well, doesn't he? And I think he had the beating of Ben Godfrey all afternoon.
Yeah, and it was a bit like when I was watching the Man City Liverpool game yesterday. It was like Doku and Trent. When a winger's got a fullback like that, it's an amazing viewing as a fan, isn't it? You just know there's nothing they can do to stop it. And that was, he was getting roasted all game, and he actually got subbed off, didn't he? And that's when Ipswich came back into the game a bit more. So yeah, it's really, really good to see. Because I think one of the major criticism of Son of late is we know he's an excellent finisher. But he's not been using his 1v1 ability enough for me. He's been sort of cutting inside and passing it backwards, or not taking on that man as we know that he can do. I think it's probably a psychological thing because I think deep down he probably knows he's lost a lot of that pace that he used to have when he was younger. He was such an electric player, but the quality is still there. He's still an outstanding player, world class for us overall, and really, really good to see. But just. To Brennan Johnson again, it's just that clinical thing, isn't it? And I'd rather have a player that does nothing and scores goals than that does a lot and doesn't. So I think that there's definitely some value to it. Be interesting to see what happens when we get all of our options back, like Solanke, Odebear, and Johnson, Tell, all vying for that front three. I don't think Werner's in the conversation anymore, luckily, as we were talking about just before we came on. And I'd be interested to see what the favourite front three is because to be honest with you, I'm not really sure what it is at the moment.
What will be yours?
To be honest with you, I think the only definite for me is Solanke as a striker. I think the rest is up for grab. And I don't know who the other ones are. I think the only nailed on spot is Solanke at the moment. And I think we've got a good mixture of options in the other places. Be interested to see because obviously Tell and Solanke have never played together. You'd imagine Son will start most games because he's our captain and our franchise player, to use an American term, and Ange definitely sees him that way. I think Ange very, very rarely ever drops on when he's fit, but I don't know the answer to the other two. The only nailed on for me, one for me is Solanke.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Billy. That's interesting. Yeah, we've certainly got a few more options there now. But I agree with you. I think a lot of it does depend on the opponent as well and the situation in the game as well in terms of who starts, who comes off. So we'll have to see. Nice problem, I think, for a manager to have. But Rosa, on this second goal, it is a nice finish, isn't it, from Brennan? We talked a lot about him, but I think it's a calm, composed finish, slotted in the corner.
Oh, it's really lovely. I know I just talked about how annoying I find Brennan. I think that's partly why, because it's just a lovely, lovely finish. It's so cool. It's so relaxed. It's so kind of elegant in a way. Just a lovely thing to witness. He's, I mean, to be thinking of him as the sort of player who does nothing and then pops up and scores goals. Solanke, who I assume we all love. I love him certainly. He's sort of the opposite, isn't he? In terms of like he does so much work but hasn't quite got all of the goals yet. So I'm really like he's one that it's almost with Brennan. It's like he doesn't really deserve the goals, whereas Solanke does. But if we get them, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, exactly that, 100%. But no, you are right. Slanky, works so hard, doesn't he, and doesn't get that end product, all the recognition from, I don't think our fan base, but mainly the wider football world. If you listen to them, they go, look at Solanke's stats, he hasn't done very good, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually watch Spurs, you can tell for me when someone talks about Solanke, whether they watch Spurs or not, because he does so much off the ball. So that's a good point that you bring up. Kallum, 36th minute, Hutchinson for Ipswich brings them back into it to make it 2-1. Special strike, wasn't it? You're not going to save that. Any goalkeeper.
I know he's like, I think he's ex-Arsenal, ex-Chelsea now, everything like that. But I mean, man, that was a special goal. And I think that had to be I know Kulu's goal was good and I know Johnson's goal was good, but I think that was the best one of the game, to be honest. So yeah, really special. Didn't help Danso getting caught out in midfield trying to make a challenge. I think he was hoping for the foul from it. I've seen him given, but this time it went against him. But no, really special. And Vicario had no chance. So yeah, I think that probably did inspire Ipswich a little bit from there. But no, I mean Hutchinson, he ain't done bad for his first prop season in the Premier League. So I mean, another person to look at. He's English and homegrown. Is that another one that gets added to Spurs' list? Let's put it that way. But no, really, really special goal. And I actually felt the Ipswich fans really enjoyed it as well, to be honest. I think a lot of neutrals and even Spurs fans can appreciate it as well.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not always easy when it's not, for your team, but it was a really good strike. Justin, there's nothing that we could have done, was there? Maybe. I don't think anyway, in a goalkeeper point of view. What about in a defensive point of view? Could that move been stopped? Could Danso have been stronger?
To be fair, I think it was a difficult one. I think he's tried to take control of that situation. It happens with defenders, in terms of what we have seen them do and how they do react in terms of things like that. I think he just tried to get, from it. I think he just got ahead of the ball. It's got away from him. And then obviously it's taken a fantastic finish from Hutchinson. So, yeah, it happens. I think the most important part was what came next, which was the way that we then dealt with Ipswich going forward until we got the third goal.
Yeah, thank you very much for that one. Billy, is there anything Danso could have done? I think he's done really well since joining Spurs, but will he be frustrated, maybe not a little bit stronger in the situation? Oh, is Billy froze?
I
don't know. He looks really angry. I mean, it's like he's staring into my soul, and I don't have one, so I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be worth going to somebody else before.
Yeah, 100%. That's fine. No worries. Technical issues there for Billy. Rosa, I'll give it to you instead. Danso, will he be disappointed?
I think so. I like Danso though. I think he's done so well since he's come in, hasn't he? I was thinking about him earlier because everyone seems pretty pleased with him and pretty excited, and we were all a bit. I don't know what this podcast take on Radu Dragusin is, but I feel like everyone was similarly excited about him at the beginning, and it was only when he kind of played quite a lot of games that we thought, actually, is he the guy? I still think he could be. I think he's pretty young. So I don't want to go like all in on Kevin, but at the same time, I think he's been great. I think, he's going to make mistakes. Our defenders have never been perfect. And I don't expect them to be, frankly.
No, especially not in the system as high line. I think you're spot on. Hopefully, Billy said he's going to join us in a couple of minutes. He's just having problems with his internet, so he will be back. Don't worry. about that. But at half time, we went into it with a 2-1 lead. Kallum, what were your thoughts on that first half? Did it feel important to go ahead at the break?
Yeah, I think that after they scored their goal, it was kind of a bit of a kick because it had gone quite quiet in the game. So I think everyone was a little bit nervous. So to still retain it at 2-1 kind of did help a little bit. But I definitely think Ipswich would have hoped that the half wasn't ending at that point because they was definitely in the ascendancy and they could probably see us a little bit nervous after that because that goal came out of nowhere. To be honest, they'd been very quiet since the first sort of quarter. So, yeah, I think half-time coming around, Ange gets them in, does his team talk and tells them to sort of calm down and get themselves composed again because obviously the goal was special, but it did come from a Spurs mistake.
Yeah, 100%. It certainly did. 77th minute, moving on to the second half. Another goal in the game. Crucial, this one, to make it 3-1 Spurs. Justin, would you say this is a really important time for us to score with Ipswich at this time, pushing for an equaliser, trying to pull it back to 2-2?
Yeah, it was. And I think that's the nature, and I think it really does highlight where when you look at Premier League teams and the quality that they have, when you're a team coming up, when you're in the ascendancy, you've got to punish them, because if you don't, and I think that's I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the team talk, is saying, look, we know they're going to come at us, they've got a goal back, let's just steady the ship, ride the storm, because they absolutely battered us when they came out of the traps. But again, Son linking up with Spence, who is almost becoming our player of the season for me. I just think it's such an amazing transformation for a guy who could have joined Genoa for 10 million quid. Is now somebody we wouldn't leave for anywhere near. It would have to be over 50-60 million to let him go, and I almost like him on the left, because he can play that role, almost in a way seems to suit him, because he can play down that wing. He did it against United. He can cut inside and things like that. And that's what he did for the goal. Just beautifully cut inside. It took a deflection, but, it will hopefully now be the start, because I wouldn't be surprised if Ange looks at him and goes, you know what, maybe we need to see him further up the pitch. Maybe we need to see him on that left wing, because he has got some real pace about him. He can put the ball in. He's got variety to his game. Wouldn't be surprised me if that's an option they consider, because, again, I think he was absolutely phenomenal. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much, Justin. Rosa, I'll come to you, because I actually plan to talk about Jed Spence next, and I think you might as well do it now. He's led us on kind of perfectly there. How impressed have you been with him? Because he has been exceptional, hasn't he? Whether you be a negative Spurs fan, a positive Spurs fan, he just deserves a lot of credit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been absolutely magnificent. I think he's the player of like this half of the season so far, for sure. I would say probably Kulusevski was the player of the first half of the season, and now it's Spence. I think what we've had this season as Spurs fans, it's been rocky, but we've had some lovely sort of narrative arcs, and I think the sort of emergence of Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall have been two of those. But I think the Jed Spence renaissance, the redemption arc, has been just a wonderful thing to witness. We all knew he was so talented. Everyone was excited when he joined. And then we just thought, well, maybe he'll just be one of those players that we had high hopes for, and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. And now he's just coming into his own, and he's showing us everything that he can do. I think he's so wonderful to watch. He's technically so gifted. He's really strong. He brings such a sort of directness that I think a lot of our other players don't have. He just makes a decision and he kind of powers forward with the ball. And he's also a brilliant defender. As much as I wanted to see him succeed, I'm also kind of blown away by how amazing he's been. And I just hope it just kind of carries on from here, really. And he's still so young. Like, surely he will only get better.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. 16 Premier League starts, 14 goal contributions for Maddison. Billy, does he deserve a little bit more respect to his name, our top goal scorer?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously,
Co-sign.
I podcast regularly with Rosa, and every week we've been on the Madison Hut train for a while together. I love him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think I think his spells at the team are when we sort of play poorly, and I think when he's playing really well, we play really well. Really good goals and assists there. But that work for the goal, we don't really have any other players that can do that. That kind of footwork is just incredible. That's like a real a differential, in being a decent player and a really, really good player. And I think he's a really, really good player. I think sometimes he's been injured. Like I think apparently this game was a knock that he received, and that's why he didn't start. But I also think sometimes Andrew's maybe not started him in games that he should start him. And I firmly believe that if we want to play our best, then Kulusevski and Madison have to be playing on the pitch at the same time. So, and I like the way that we did it. That I don't necessarily believe that Kulusevski should be a right winger to do that. I think there might be some other options. Both of them can play in the front three. Madison can play on the left. Kulusevski can play on the right. They can both play at the 10. They can also both play centre midfield. But I think when we're at our best, both of them should be playing because they're two of our very best players. And I think Madison is criminally underrated, to be honest. And I just read today that he's been talking to Tuchel about England. He should be in the England squad without a doubt. I think he scores goals, he creates goals. I think he's an excellent player.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much, Billy, as always. Justin, I'll ask you about Samuel, because he's put a question in the chat. He says, what do you think of Ange's handling of the Spence situation? I'm assuming he's talking about maybe being, left out of Europa League squad and not being getting minutes at the start, whereas he is now. What do you make of it?
Well, I think, to be fair, we've got to take it back a bit further than that, because obviously we all, I think, all went like this at the moment that Conte said he's a club signing, because we knew it didn't matter. You've wasted 20 million quid. He ain't going to play. You've just basically thrown. You might as well just tell him to go somewhere else, rip up his contract, and send him somewhere else. He wasn't going to play. I think Ange has obviously seen what he had in terms of Porro, in terms of Udogie, and then maybe looked at it as in, well, the attitude hasn't been right. And to be fair, can you blame him when he's pretty much not been wanted by the guy who he was signed for, and now another guy turns up? So he was probably quite disillusioned. I think, though, in a way, it's been a good sort of way of dealing with it, because ultimately the fact it's given him the opportunity of being able to redeem himself. Let's not forget, we saw it with Harry Kane when he had, what was it, I think like 6 or 7 loans, and people, and I remember hearing an interview that Tim Sherwood did with Simon Jordan, where he talked about the fact that he had to argue with Daniel Levy about why he was playing Harry Kane over Roberto Soldado, and the rest is history. So, to me, okay, it might be deemed as tough love, but at the end of the day, hats off to Jed. He's put his foot down, or he's put his head down, and he's got on with it. So credit to him, and credit to Andrew, and credit to the team.
100%. Let's go for a couple of comments. Jay says, be interesting to see if Kevin Danso will either get played with Van der Ven or Romero when they're back, or if it will be Danso and Van der Ven. No, interesting. Fair enough. And also Jay went on to say there are pictures of Romero in training, which is good. And David Clark said Spence obviously had character problems. Other coaches pointed this out at his other clubs, but it looks like he's grown up fast, and this time for the right coach to get the most out of him. Yeah, quite possibly. Quite possibly indeed. I guess we'll never know. Moving on, 84th minute, Kulusevski strikes to make it 4-1 Spurs, what I call the cherry on top. Kallum, a beautiful goal from Kulusevski, wasn't it? I mean, someone in the YouTube chat isn't going to like this, but that was just another level.
Yeah, no, a traditional Kulu masterpiece goal. Obviously, he'd been quite quiet during that game, to be honest. He'd done a lot of running with a lot of end product, but it's a traditional. He moved out to the right, cut in on his left-hand side, and then scooped it around. I can't even think who the keeper was for Ipswich, to be honest, because it wasn't Murich, whoever they do play, Alex, and slotted it right past Alex Palmer on his left-hand side. So, no, good goal. I think the game was dead by then, to be honest, but it's just a moment of sort of a special goal. in terms of the quality they did have, sort of thing. And he had the beating of the Ipswich defence, and really good goal. Just maybe could have done a little bit more in that game in its entirety.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I do think you chatter, but I think that, you do make a good point, to be honest. Rosa, Dane Scarlett, he got his first Premier League assist. I think he does well here, doesn't he? That little knock on, little header. You happy for him as well?
Oh, I'm so delighted for him. Yeah, I'm not. I've sort of watched it back, and I'm like, I don't know how intentional it was. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I would love now to see him stay and properly get some more minutes, and it's sort of allowed me to dream a little bit about, remember the last ever game Kane played for us, and it was the friendly, and he went off and it started to rain, and then Scarlett came on and he scored, and everyone thought, what if this is incredibly symbolic and this is the future? And then it kind of very much wasn't for a little while. But I would love, I am now dreaming about that. I'm dreaming about a future for Dane Scarlett where he could be leading the line for us. I would love nothing more.
Interesting. It's a really interesting thought. You never know. Next Harry Kane, it looks good from what we've seen of
I
Dane
like to dream
Scarlett.
big.
Yeah, that's what we want. Absolutely. Better than being negative, isn't it, Kallum? So, moving on. I thought I said that quietly. Full time, it did end Ipswich 1, Spurs 4. Ignoring what you're doing right now. Tell you what, Kallum, I'll come to you. I'll keep you quiet. What were your thoughts overall on the game? Were you happy? Was it a case of just, good performance, good win, but of course, not perfect?
These are the games that we definitely need to win, because these are where the points should be, where we should pick up to go up the table, to be honest. And I know it sounds hypocritical how we all was a couple of weeks ago, but this was like the relegation competitors with us at one point, wasn't it? We was all in that sort of bad area. So to beat them, it's 3 crucial points to go up the table. We've got a gap as well with other teams sort of falling away. So if we can use this as a springboard, it's obviously 3 games on the bounce that we've won in the Premier League. I know we had the horrendous cup run, but I think that no matter how it was, we lost to Ipswich early in the season. We had to go and get a result at their ground to make an impact. And we've done that. We weren't at the races for 90 minutes, but a positive performance when you look at it. 4 goals, 1 conceded, a couple more players getting stuff in their legs, and we was able to rest a couple of people for City. So, yeah, positive on that note going forward, mate.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much to you, Kallum. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll come to you, Billy, because it was, the perfect Saturday and perfect weekend, if you like, wasn't it? With Arsenal and Chelsea losing as well. Not bad at all.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had one of them as well. Very
Absolutely.
rarely watched match today. You can count that onto my hand. I've watched match today this season, but this is a match today 2 weekend for sure. Yeah, and it's just something which we needed badly. Like I've been on this podcast so many times with Kallum and Jay, where we've lost. We've been in such a relentless run of bad form this year. It was like it's been absolutely ridiculous, hasn't it? Like what was it? Rosa was saying earlier. It's been like how long since we won 3 games in a row, Rosa?
December 2023.
Yeah, and for a team of our size, that is unforgivable, really, isn't it? If there's 3 wins in a row, we haven't had that for over a year and a half almost. Yeah, it's been much needed lift. 3 wins in a row. I think there are still some concerns up ahead. Who knows what's going to happen? And still some things. I'm absolutely devastated to be at the 2 cups, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup at the moment. FA Cup in particular really hurts because this cup weekend this weekend we don't have a game. And I haven't seen us put a decent FA Cup in for a long time. But 3 wins in a row. Hopefully now we get our players back, we can really push on. But I don't, as we've been saying all the time on this podcast, I don't really care what happens in the league from here on in. I just want to focus on that Europa. So that Alkmaar game, that's the one I'm concentrating on. If we beat City, great, it'll be a fantastic day. But I want to get through to that Europa. I want to go through a big run in there. I want to get to that final.
100%. A lot of people feel that way. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Cheers, Billy. Justin, 3 wins in a row. You feel like we've turned a corner a little bit, would you say? Players coming back?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the positive in terms of the fact, as you say, we have turned that corner. We're now in this position, but it's a shame how we've got here. You know, the fact that we've had to go out of those cups, the fact that we've had to have so many injuries, the fact that we've had to have the gamble in terms of not bringing in the quality sooner. You know, if you think about it, Danzo came in. Was a couple of days before the window ended. Why could that deal not be done earlier? You know, and you look at those sort of things. You know, we shouldn't have left it to the last minute for Tell and things like that and what have you. So yeah, it is a turning point. It's just such a shame that we've had to go through everything else to get to it. But fingers crossed, we have a push up the table, but that doesn't impact what should be the most important thing this season, which is winning Europa League.
Yeah, 100%. Rosa, you have to jump. Thank you very much for coming on. Really solid debut with me. It was never in doubt, was it? Thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome back anytime. Where can people find you
Thank you
there
so
across the
much.
socials?
You can find me just Rosa on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Hometown, come chat to us. Hometown Glory, Hometown Glory Pod with Billy every Monday. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy. Love to talk about us. I love to talk about us when we win. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.
Take
See
care.
you later.
See you later.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much to Rosa. Next, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou, and we'll think about a bit what he said and also his in-game management in this game, because I think he's come under fire in the past for his in-game management, but I think he got it spot on in this game. But here's what he had to say. A little bit more upbeat interview, I think it's fair to say.
And well done. Another good win, 3 on the trot against a team fighting for their life in the Premier League. It was a good performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, as you said, they're fighting for their lives, and you saw that right from the start, you know, and the crowd get behind them. It was always going to be a challenge for us. But we showed some real resilience and fought hard when we needed to fight hard. I think first half we didn't quite handle the whole, you know, that second ball scenario as well as we wanted to. Conceded a poor goal, but second half I thought we were really good with that. But we're always a threat going forward, and you know, I thought Sonny was outstanding in that first half, and just so good to get Brendan back and scoring the goals we know he can, you know, in that team.
I think once we'd got through the start, what really shone was the quality in the big moments, the way we took the goals, Ange.
Yeah, I think all 4 of our goals were quality goals, and we had, you know, some really good chances to extend that. But that's what I mean. I thought as long as we got a handle on sort of the, you know, other parts of the game where we had to fight and scrap a little bit and win our draws, I always felt when we got the game under control that we did. We had the quality in that front third to really hurt them, and yeah, that's how it transpired.
I think it says it all. Decky scores that goal, and then I'm looking at him in the 95th minute, defending on the edge of his box.
Yeah, and you know, Decky's been unbelievable through this period, you know, and people forget he started the season on fire. It was unbelievable, but he's had to put in so many, you know, kilometres over the last 2.5 months. Him, Pedro, a couple of others. No complaints, no excuses, just kept grinding away. But you can see when he's got energy, gets a chance to recover game to game, that, you know, the quality's there. And whether it's in midfield or, you know, like I said, scored a cracking goal, but really worked hard for the team. So again, pleased for him.
We were talking about light at the end of the tunnel about a month ago when we were really going through it, and I think we're beginning to see that now, aren't we?
Oh, look, I think, you know, we're sort of taking advantage of the circumstances now before us, in that, you know, we've had a couple of sort of spare midweeks, which have been really, really important for us. We're getting some players back, which again is really, really important for us. So those kind of things are certainly encouraging, and you know, as I said, we're not really happy. Well, obviously, we're not happy with where we are in the league, and we want to improve that. And there's still a lot of games to go. It's not like there's 3-4 games to go, so we can still make an impact. Still got some significant players to come back. You know, Solanke, Richarlison, Van der Ven, Romero, Ben was out today. So, you know, we're going to get stronger, and you know, hopefully the boys really get encouragement from that.
What you said all along, though, Ange, is like having a full, in inverted commas, squad to choose from means in games like this, you can bring players off the bench who can make an impact, and we've literally seen it in front of our eyes today.
And also rest them, you know, because I mean, Matt is, you know, I'm sure appreciated, and Pedro definitely would have appreciated just not starting a game, but you can put them on. You can put Wilson on. You know, you can put Biss on. Pape I could have used. Dane made a contribution, and as I said, we've still got 4 or 5 top footballers out of today's squad. So we're going to need that. We know that this sort of luxury of midweeks off is going to diminish now, but hopefully we're better equipped to handle it than we were during the year.
Just finally, with Wednesday in mind, everyone come through today okay? It looks like it.
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone came through, and like I said, we managed to keep a few on ice, so it gives us a chance to sort of put some energy into the team Wednesday night.
There you go. That's Ange Postecoglou. That's what he had to say. I mean, Billy, you said it, didn't you? In terms of when it comes to Postecoglou and how he'd view the league, it treated really seriously. You can hear him speak there, can't you? He still believes that we can fight for something.
Yeah, and that's always going to be his philosophy, I think, mate. And I don't think you'll ever see him face a weakened side in the Premier League ever. It's just not the way, as he would say, this is not who he is. Yeah, and I think, and to be honest, I think if you're trying to change the mentality of a football club, which we have badly needed for decades, especially as our owners in particular have a massive loser energy and loser mentality that have sort of dripped into the club for the 20 years that they've been here, I think you need to do that, and you need to sort of get that onto the players that, every game you need to go out and win. And I think obviously it came to light last season when we had that Man City game. And he was a bit disappointed with the sort of question whether we should win or not, or lose, or be happy to lose. That was, I think, showed a lot about his mentality. He wants to win every single game. And my God, do our football club need to change their mentality, because we've been perennial losers now for 17 years. Today, actually, is the 17th year anniversary since we won a trophy, which is crazy. 17 years for a club of our size. It's insane.
Sorry, good fun there. Yeah, I'm mute button there. No, absolutely. Long time, 17 years. Still yet to see one. I keep getting told that I'm the curse, but we're have to see. I can't blame Kallum on this one. Ouch. What am I going to do? Talking of Kallum, did he get the in-game management right? Do you think Postecoglou in this game? I thought he did. I thought he made those subs at a crucial point where it felt like the game was going to slip away.
Yeah, I thought he's more proactive than usual. And I think he was kind of forced into it because there was obviously a little bit of tension where Ipswich, probably 5 minutes after the half, they sort of they started getting their act together a little bit, and then obviously they had that chalked offside goal as well. So no, I thought he was positive with it for once, and to be honest, the players that did come on had an impact. So that's what you want. I know it's against Ipswich, but if each player comes on and just gives another 5%, then it's something more than you got on the pitch. So no, really, really good in-game management for this game, but he's got to get it right every game now going forward. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he has. No, 100%. Justin, do you think he got it right? Ange Postecoglou in this game deserve credit?
Yeah, I think he knew what was coming. In terms of how Ipswich were going to set up, I think it wasn't a shock really to know that they, as he rightly said, they're fighting for their lives. They were desperate to try and get something out of the game. I think they probably even themselves thought they got something from us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So to be fair, I think he managed it pretty well. Knew it was going to be tough in both halves, but the class did show through. We were able to pick them apart when we needed to get the goals, and he also, I think, showed a calm manner even when they got their goal back, because we've done that before where we've conceded and then we've absolutely crumbled. So it was good to see how he managed it at half time as well. So I think the players will have taken confidence from it. I think he'll have taken confidence from it. And let's roll it into the City game. So, thank you. As I said, I'm going to shoot. So thanks so much for having us on.
Thank you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so Twitter, X, whatever anybody wants to call it. I'm usually on there coming up with some sort of opinion or things like that. So, if you disagree with it, which I know most people do, I'm more than happy to have that debate. And I look forward to coming on next time when hopefully it'll be another win, fingers crossed.
Hopefully. I look forward to having you. Always a pleasure. Have a great evening.
Take care. All the best, guys. See you later.
Bye, mate.
Cheers. So Kallum, Let's talk Manchester City then, shall we? The podcast, it's in the title. It's only fair that we at least give it a little bit of airtime. And plus, we're playing all right, so there's a little bit of excitement going into it.
Yeah, no, exactly, mate. I mean, to be fair, what is it? It's like 4 wins over Manchester clubs at the moment, 3 against United. Wait, no, it's 5 now, isn't it? We've beaten City twice, once in the cup and once in the Prem at their game, at their place. We've then beaten United at Old Trafford, and we've beaten United twice at Spurs as well. So, I mean, realistically, we're doing all right against the Manchester clubs, and if we want to have a positive end, we need to the season. We need to take as many of these games seriously as possible, and within reason, we haven't got a game at the weekend. We've got a 10-day gap after the City game, so we've got to go all out to beat them. To be honest, and City are susceptible. They played horrendous against who was it against? Real Madrid. I'm trying to think who they played. Oh, they weren't great against Liverpool either. They couldn't really finish up front. Mamouche was quiet. Doku was quiet. So City aren't in a great run of form, and Haaland being out probably hasn't helped that. And De Bruyne is obviously his age has caught up to him now. So we need to be prepared to go at City like what we did in the previous 2 games against them and get at them. Because, I mean, even Timo Werner put Kyle Walker into early retirement on the continent now. So, and that's saying something. So if we want to be taken seriously, which I know lots of people don't this season, but City are still the reigning champions. They were crap, but now we've got to
side. They just haven't been consistent.
And that's the thing. They've had so many players out injured this year.
Well, it's where they're let down. They still create chances.
Yeah, they just can't finish their dinner at the moment. That's the thing. And their whole back line. I mean, the fact that Kusanov was their best centre back yesterday when they was playing, and from what I've seen of him, I know it's only been a month, but he looks very raw. So if our front line all switches on and does something, then hopefully they'll have a field day with him, and the poor kid will be literally going back to France.
Yeah, 100%. But how do you feel, Kallum? Do you feel confident ahead of this one? As you talked about our Manchester record, do you think that obviously we know City are tough? You've just said that, but do you think that we can win this game?
Hands down, we can beat anyone on our day. I just hope it's our day. And usually we do pretty poor in midweek games. I mean, I would have liked I don't know whether I think City are still in the FA Cup. If they weren't in the FA Cup, I would have liked this
just
game
about. They squeezed past Orient, didn't they?
Yeah, with Jamie Donnelly obviously coming up with that banger, even though it was given us an own goal. But I would have liked if they didn't have FA Cup for this game to be moved to the weekend, because realistically, it's not a big turnaround, to say the least, is it? I think so. We have to be honest and say that this is a very big game, but we have a great record against City. The football that City play leaves space for us to exploit. This is teams we play well against. It's low blocks where theoretically we don't, apart from maybe against Ipswich at the weekend. So if we're going to do something, we need to do it now and use this, because City are one of our tougher games. If we can win this, then it'll mean that there's less pressure elsewhere. And I know 3 points won't really make a difference to the table as it stands, but it'll draw us away from Palace if we win and they lose. It'll put us a point behind Brentford in 11th, and it brings us 2 points behind Fulham as well in 10th. So if we
it's
want
so
to
congested, isn't it? I know we're not involved in it, but if you look further up the table, it is really congested. What can we achieve, Kallum? Is there any chance we can get a European place of some kind?
Well, we could get Conference League, potentially. I mean, if not, we obviously want to push to win the Europa League, to get guaranteed Champions League, and obviously
Just looking here, Yeah, we can definitely get 7th and 8th, can't we?
Yeah, because it's what 10 points. That's 3
Yeah.
games. I know it sounds ridiculous. And
Yeah,
10
9 points to Villa
is a
in
lot
8th.
to gain, but not exactly. So we are very much knocking on the door now. It's just the silly points that we dropped earlier in the season. What was it? We got 1 point out of 6 against Leicester, dropping 3 points at Goodison Park. But I know they've had their resurgence. But all the silly points we've lost over the last couple of weeks has hampered us. And we've got to play recovery now. And we've got to keep the teams below us off of us, but we've got to chase the top teams above us as well. Simple as that. But City,
Yeah.
if we can beat them, they're there for the taking. And
Well, if we beat them, we go. Sorry, Kallum. We beat them. We go 8 points behind them. Have a better goal difference as well, and they sit 4th.
Well, exactly. We're the second top
tighter than you think.
scorers in. We're the second top scorers in the Premier League. It's just the fact of that we've dropped. I think it's 21 or 24 points from winning positions.
Yeah, 24, isn't it? Shocking.
If we had 20 more points on this, we'd be level with Arsenal, or just ahead. We'd be second if we had have got our act together. That's how it is. Them 20 points that we've dropped, even if we had 10 more that we hadn't dropped, like the points against Leicester, against against Fulham when we conceded as well, we'd be there and thereabouts in the top 4, and we'd be positive. So yeah, it's ridiculous how our season has been, and it shows in the Premier League anyone can beat anyone. So yeah, it's difficult. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, let's have a look here. It's a lot tighter than I thought.
Since we picked up these 9 points, it's gotten very congested, and the closest teams are West Ham, United, Everton, Crystal Palace to us. But then it's the gulf above us, which is 3 to 4 points as well.
It's really interesting to see. Just looking here. Yeah, we beat Man City.
We're a
You
point
look at it from
behind.
a different point of view. Yeah, I'm not saying we can necessarily do that much, but it just looks that just a little bit better. Wow, how things can change quickly in football. I want to talk about lineup though, Kallum, because we haven't got Ange Postecoglou or Pep Guardiola's press conference at the time of recording. It's always the way, but frustrating. Assuming
Move the
everyone's
show
fit.
to a Tuesday.
Yeah, I know exactly. Sometimes I do think about that, but you wait. Spurs stop getting in Champions League football. Won't complain though. And play on a Tuesday. You never know. Not this season, I don't think. But in terms of lineup, let's say that Davies is still out, but everyone else is still available off the back of that game. No one else coming back. What would be your lineup?
I'd probably go Vic in goal, Spence at left back, because I didn't see enough from Udogie against Ipswich. I'd probably have to go Gray, Danso, Porro, because I thought Porro was quite good when he came on, to be honest. Probably go Johnson on the left, Kulusevski right, Madison, Bergvall, Bentancur in the middle. I'd have to go Tell up top, to be honest. I'd drop Son.
See what? Let's discuss Tell. Let's discuss Tell. You mentioned him there, and that's something we didn't do in the Ipswich discussion. There's been a lot of talk about him already. Oh, he's poor signing. He can't play up front. We're a reactionary fan base. We talked about it last week, but he needs time, doesn't he? 19 years of age to settle in. I don't think he's been necessarily fantastic or set the world alight, and he's lacking maybe that striker instinct. But we've got to be patient, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, he's young, and obviously with youth now comes big price tag, big potential, and I mean, I like the runs that he's making, but he sort of lacks that striker's instinct. So I think he's more, if anything, as a sort of inside forward or an inverted winger on the left. So it would definitely help if we can get him playing on the left with Dom and then playing someone else, then we could have an option. But I don't. All the I raised it with Luke and Wes last night. We were saying that all the times that he was going for the ball on Saturday, he was taking up the same space as Johnson. They was getting in each other's way a lot of times. Even when Johnson scored both the goals, the ball went past Tell and went into Johnson or behind him as well. So I don't think he's a striker. I think he's like Son. He is a winger by trade, to be honest. But I think it's just the hype that comes with him as this young up-and-coming player that people want him to be a striker, to be honest. But his stats ain't great as a number 9.
No, they're not at all. Quickly divert off. There's a question in the YouTube chat, and there's a breaking news that I just want to discuss before we get back to City, because I just want to play a clip that City fans sent in. But firstly, yeah, a couple of questions. Shu G reaction, hope you said your name right, says, who do you want Spurs to sign in the summer? The Kallum, if I said to you, of course, it's got to be realistic. One player. Maybe our budget went towards solely or just generally. Who would it be that's, realistic for Spurs? Hard.
Yeah, I mean, if I was saying football manager wise, I'd say you'd want that top class left winger, so you'd go like Jamal Musiala from Bayern, because I mean the geezer at the weekend literally fell over, he got taken out, then got straight back up, went round the
Really?
defender and scored. So that'd be the
He's
class
good.
signing that I'd want, but we wouldn't get him. So
No.
I think Gittins could be a good option, but that's more youth as well. So I mean, it'd have to be Gahey. I think a really positive centre-back signing. But then if you got Gahey, you'd know probably Romero or Van der Ven would go. And it sounds weird because all top teams should be able to retain all their best players, and you should be able to do it. But it's because it's
100%.
Spurs. Because it's
But
Spurs, we
Danso
have to.
coming in, I
Yeah.
think as well that maybe they're planning for one to depart.
Well, that's the thing. We're Spurs fans. We're not allowed nice things, are we? We're allowed one nice thing, but we have to give one up as well. So that's the scenario that I look at it, that potentially does it Romero going or Van der Ven go? Is that why they put in that big bid, or was it just the PR? But I think Gahey's a class player. It's just
100%.
he's never had that opportunity up the top. So yeah, it's difficult.
It's difficult. Do you know who mine would be? And it's not centre back. It'd be
What do you
Mateus Cunha of Wolves.
Class player.
See,
don't-
can I explain why?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Because I think that not only will he, can he play as a striker and offer serious competition with Solanke, he can play on that left-hand side. So I think for me, that's the long-term replacement for Son, done well and truly. If he's not going to be Tell or whatever, he can also play that number 10. So there's another option to have in that 10 position because he can do it. And we're not talking about a case of, okay, this player can play here and does an okay job. He's class in whatever position he plays in. And he's, far too good for Wolves. And he's ready for that next step up. And it could be a case where as he leaves, especially if they go down Wolves, that he leaves quite abruptly and maybe for not as much of that, he's valued at because he's tried to walk out in January. So a bit of tension there. They just want to get something rather than nothing for him. So he'd be my dream case scenario signing. And I'm sorry, Richie, but I'd shift you out and Cunha comes in.
That's the thing. There's a number of players that have got to leave this summer, isn't there? You've got to get rid of Werner. Probably Richie's got to go. Richie has had his chance, and
I think so.
It didn't go down well. Thanks, Stephen Sausage. Real mature with your comment in that one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, get rid of that one, mate. Get rid of that one. That'll drop your views.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely players that have got to be moved on. I mean, I think it sounds harsh, but I think Dragusin may have to go because I like him as a player, but I don't think he suits the profile of a high line defender. To be honest, he's not mobile enough. And yeah, looks like we've got a load of spam in the comments.
Yeah, some genuine comments, but some are not. But it's what happens when it comes to the chance to win. Their money's involved. You get people jump on a little bit of a bandwagon, don't they? Before we get to back to Man City, there's breaking news today, Kallum, of Bentancur, a potential new contract. How do you feel about that? Has he earned that new contract at Spurs?
He's probably earned it more than Basuma. Let's put it this way. There's 3 midfielders there in Sarr, Basuma, and Bentancur, sort of going for them 8 and 6 positions, with then Gray and Bergvall, I think, sort of a little bit ahead of them. And you've got 5 players going for 2 positions. And to be honest, based on what I've seen from Basuma, I think he'll go. Bentancur, I would love him to stay. I think he's got that moment of magic in him that can change games within reason. And I don't think it's only injuries that keep sort of Bentancur on the fringes. I don't know
Or
whether he can stay.
suspensions.
Yeah,
Injuries or suspensions, yeah.
yeah. If he opens his mouth about different people around the world, then we've got to be concerned. If he gets injured, then we've got to be concerned as well. So if he is going to stay, then we've just got to get a proper season out of him. Because if we do, then hands down, you've probably got your number 8 there. He's not a 6, he's been covering, but he's a good ball carrying midfielder. So yeah, if he can sign another contract, I think his contract's up to 2027 or at the moment, I think. So he's got 2 years on it. They'll probably extend it to 2028 or 2029. So that'll take him up to about 30. He's not on the highest of wages either at the club. I think he's on about 100 to 120 grand a week. So he'll remain below the threshold that Levy's set. And it sort of fits in with that, but it also protects his value. Because remember, at one point, a couple of seasons ago, he was rated as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. It's just injuries which are curtailed that at the moment. So
Things
yeah,
change so quick.
I'd be happy though with him staying, and if we can move on Basuma in the summer, I wouldn't be objected to it, to be honest. And Sarr has to step up because he's had his time as the young prospect now. He's got to show what he's made of and what he can do, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought he was just like really a player really far ahead of his schedule, but he just really slowed down and just nothing really from him apart from just that energy. It's all it is, isn't it? All he has is that energy. But last thing before we go back to City, proper sidetracked. Daniel Hudson says, "What do you make of the rumours of Son going to United?" I saw that today about that Rashford replacement.
Would they really want to risk bringing in someone who's 32, 33? They've already got an aging squad. I don't.
It would be a
think...
United signing, though, wouldn't it? No ambition, short term.
Well, no ambition. It's more about commercial, isn't it? It'd just be commercial revenue that they get out of that.
Yeah.
But no, I can't see that happening, to be honest. What is he really going to go there as well, to be honest?
Well, the other thing is he really going to leave the club after signing that year extension? I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I love Sonny, and he deserves all the credit, by the way, for in this podcast for Ipswich and classy. He's the type of person I want as captain. I feel proud saying that Son's a captain. I want someone like that representing the club. He's happy. It's just the right mentality, the right attitude. I love all of that, but he's aging and he's not the player he was. And I think you have to come around to accepting that. You can't have someone who's just can play well once a week. Same applies though to Basuma, to Maddison. Your ability, okay, but you've got to perform. But we move back to the Manchester City chat because we haven't given our predictions yet, and I want to hear from get that City point of view. So thank you to the City Shack once again, collaborated in before, for sending in his thoughts ahead of this game. Here's what he had to say.
Hi Harry, just previewing the Manchester City Tottenham game on Wednesday night. Tough one to call at the moment. Both sides totally in different form. I'm going to go with a Manchester City 3-1 win, providing that Haaland is back. Massive for us to have Haaland back. Don't feel like Marmoush can lead the line on his own. Needs somebody to play off. And obviously Tottenham have a lot of injuries themselves as well, so we'll see who's back. I'm going to go with a Manchester City 3-1 win though, even though historically we've been absolutely shocking away to Spurs. Yep, nice one. Cheers.
Nice short preview. That's what we like from the City Shack. He's confident, isn't he, Kallum?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think most City fans have to be confident because obviously they're like us. They ain't got much else to play for. They probably ain't going to get the league. They're out of the Carabao. They're just about in the FA Cup and they went out the Champions League. So all these points are crucial for them, because where Newcastle are pushing now further up the league, they're being squeezed for points now. So if they can get it, then go for it. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? I think they need the points. We need the points. So may the best team win out of this one, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. And, still two big teams. It's still a big game, regardless of how both teams, because neither season, team would be happy with their season, will they? It hasn't gone to plan for sure. City would have wanted the title. We would have wanted top four. It hasn't gone that way, but still not disastrous. Both teams, could still be playing in some form of Europe. City Champions League, us maybe Conference League. Not great for either side, but salvageable. No need to panic yet. But let's wrap it up, Kallum, with our score predictions for this game. We've got the City Shack. We thank him, for sending in his thoughts. He went 3-1 City. I'm going to go with 3-1 Spurs. What's your prediction?
I think I said 2-1 Spurs last night, so I'll stick with it, to be honest, mate.
You're good. You're good. I'd have to change. I flip-flop throughout the week, and it depends on who's available, who's not, and just completely changes. But I think that wraps us up nicely, Kallum. So thank you very much. Where can people find you across the socials?
No, cheers as always, mate. So it's Kallum Stubbs 97 on X, Park Lane Podcast as well. So yeah, go and check us out every Sunday night. And hopefully we get a win this week to make it a little bit more positive again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Make sure to check Kallum out. I want to thank Rosa. I want to thank Billie. I want to thank Justin, all for coming in earlier. Check them out across all socials. You can follow me at Harry Scarfe 22. But most importantly, follow all the guys. Like and subscribe to the channel if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening after on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review if you're new and you enjoyed what you're hearing. And also you do get that visual bit as well if you are listening on podcast platforms such as Spotify. You can see it as well as hear it, which I think is really important. I made sure that was in place. We thank our sponsor, the Kitman, once again. Thank you all for tuning in. There's been a lot of therapy sessions this week. This is what the season we wanted to get to this point. 3 wins in a row, a little bit more positive, upbeat. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. So thank you very much. And for now, a massive come on you Spurs.